Welcome to the Love of the Star podcast. What a great start here on a Saturday morning.
False start, offense, still first down.
Cowboys insider for 105.3 The Fan in Dallas, joined as always by former Super Bowl winning NFL
and
scout
referee.
Brian Broaddus. He is now the co-host of the G-Bag Nation, 2 to 7 p.m. Central, Monday through Friday on 105.3 The Fan in Dallas. He is also the pre- and post-game co-host on the Dallas Cowboys radio network. If you are in the Texas area, you're a Dallas Cowboys radio affiliate, you will hear Brian Broaddus on Sunday night, pre- and post-game covering the Dallas Cowboys. And it is time for Cowboys football, Brian. We've reached we've gone as absolutely far as we possibly can without Cowboys football. It's here. As we head into this first game, your excitement levels for the return of this particular Cowboys team, and how about some of your thoughts from the Chiefs-Lions game the other night?
Well, I thought that was really interesting for the guys and gals out there that'll argue about your starters playing in preseason games like Andy Reid does. Kind of one of those times where, Kansas City didn't look prepared at their skilled level for sure. The drops that they were dealing with. Kansas City might have some problems this year, too, with their offensive line. They might have some problems at tackle, which is something that they've worked very, very hard on trying to fix their offensive line. Obviously, they've been in Super Bowls. They've won Super Bowls. They probably deserve a little respect from me for sure. I'm not sitting there and acting like doom and gloom, but
they've never won back-to-back, Brian.
Yeah, so. Well, yeah. We go all the way back to the New England Patriots on that one, I think, to the early 2000s. I was still in the league when they were doing that stuff. But, yeah, I kind of feel like that, it's 17 games, long season, but there's things you need to keep an eye on. I've been very bullish on Detroit if you listen to 105.3 The Fan.
Yeah.
Detroit's one of my teams that I've picked early to win the NFC North. I like what Dan Campbell has done. I like their skill guys. I like their offensive line. I think they're going to be very difficult, but now with Aaron Rodgers out of the picture there at the North, I feel like the Lions are positioned to have a big year. I actually predicted the Cowboys and the Lions to meet in the playoffs, first round of the playoffs, and so
a rematch, a decade in the making.
Yeah, I have a feeling that Dallas is just radio predictions you make. I have a feeling Dallas is going to have to go to Detroit and play in a playoff game, and we'll see how that goes when it happens. But I do like the Lions. I think Kansas City needs to figure out what the skill position stuff is going to bring, and they need to look at their offensive line. I don't know if there's a lot of changes or moves that they can make, but I still feel like that they're trying to figure out things. Look very strong inside, but at tackle, they look like there might be some issues there that they're dealing with. So. Good start to the season for the Lions, and here the Cowboys travel to a longtime division foe who they've had really great success against in opening days. You look at Dak Prescott and what his career record is against NFC East opponents. He's very comfortable playing in these games. He knows the magnitude of the game. He knows how important it is to win the division. So hopefully they'll get off to a great start like a lot of people believe they are.
Yeah, this will be an interesting game. There is rain in the forecast, and it's not expected to be a downpour. Go ahead, Brian.
Well, no, could I ask you a question? And you said about rain in the forecast. Mm-hmm. And before I forget, because old people do this all the time, who do you like running the ball better in this game? Which team do you like running the ball better in this game?
The Giants.
I do too. And I've asked this question to others. I've been on other platforms. The Break and 105.3 The Fan. I don't know if they've talked about it on your show at all, but I kind of feel like that the Giants have got some inside problems too on their offensive line.
They did. You told us last episode about how they were talking about going with a rotation potentially.
Right.
Brian Dable on Friday did make the announcement that he said they had settled on Ben Bredesen and Mark Glowinski. So they will not rotate the guards apparently.
Well, that's how they'll start. It'll start.
Well, he's claiming they're not going to rotate.
No, and that's and that's the whole thing. There used to be a time, and I'm sorry, Bobby, you were talking about weather, and I don't want to go off on something different.
No, but this is ultimately what we're talking about here. The weather is the way it is. The Cowboys' offensive line injury report came out. Let's give you the very latest on the injuries really quickly. Tyler Smith is doubtful. I don't think Tyler Smith is playing. I think Chuma Edoga is starting at left guard on Sunday night. Tyron Smith is questionable with an ankle. He's going. It sounds like it doesn't.
He's going to
sound
go.
like
Yeah, he's going to go. Yeah,
he'll play. It's sounding more optimistic on Sam Williams. By
yes,
the way,
very man. I was worried about that one. You're right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And turf toe can linger, and especially we were talking about like that get off and stuff like that. That can be a problem. Donovan Wilson, their safety. I had always thought it was going to be a little optimistic to think he could be back for week 1. He's also doubtful. Looks like he'll be out. Giants side, the biggest injury there is Darren Waller popped up on the injury report with a hamstring, which makes him questionable. From what I've heard, Brian, I don't know if you've heard different. I think the hamstring is not serious. Waller could absolutely play with it. Right. I think he likely will. If I had to lean one way, I'd say he's likely going to play. But I was told, hey, like he dealt with hamstrings all last year.
Yes.
And so just like be aware that the Giants may say, let's not potentially ruin our investment very first game. Let's just make sure this calms down first.
Right. No,
especially in a hamstring on a wet field. And so as we talk about this, these elements, these weather conditions, how the injury report looks, Dallas is going to have to play with Edoga in all likelihood. And they've got a banged up left side. They've got, Tony Pollard coming off of his injury and debuting on a wet field against a really stout interior of the Giants defensive line. Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence, that's one of the better interior defensive line combos you're going to see in the NFL. And of course, the Giants, they've got Saquon Barkley, a very powerful runner and somebody who's used to playing in some of these conditions a little more than maybe Tony Pollard is. And I think that while the Giants have their questions inside, John Michael Schmitz is not a power player. They've had the issues with the guards. I also don't think that there's as much of a challenge from the Cowboys interior. I really like Oso Odigizua. I like Jonathan Hankins, but that's not like going up against Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence with, a backup guard. And so the way I see this one, Brian, like you just set up, is I think the Giants can run the football better. It's just a matter of how much do the Cowboys think they can execute their passing attack given some of the questions with the weather and the offensive line.
And I think you painted a really clear picture to Cowboy fans out there or anybody who's watching that's curious about how they think this game might go. The Giants' questions inside lead me to believe that maybe if you can somehow force the Giants into a passing game where they have to throw the football, it just turns into one-dimensional, as we like to say. Mm-hmm. I think this is where if you want a dark horse candidate of a player that's going to have potentially a really good game, I love what Osa could bring, but I do love what Tank Lawrence could be also as that 3 technique if they play nickel. If it all of a sudden turns into, okay, where do you play Micah? Which side do you put Micah on? Do you try and go and take advantage of Evan Neal, which they were able to do last year a little bit when they had that opportunity at tackle? But I think that if there's going to be some questions about the Giants inside, Lewinsky and others, then this is where Tank Lawrence kind of can feed. And I'm looking at that as a maybe a pressure point for the Cowboys to attack with this against this Giants offensive line. But running the football for the Giants, and I believe this. I think I said on the last show, Bobby. I think the Giants are going to be a left-handed team. I really do. I think they're going to test whoever's playing right end for you, and they're going to test whoever's playing right end, and they're going to try and test Diggs at corner. They're going to see if, in fact, that Diggs is willing to step up and make plays on the edge, and then also can that right defensive end, whether it's Sam Williams, Armstrong, Fowler, whoever's playing right end, can hold up in the running game. Because, everything is about get up the field and all that. When you start to get up the field, you start to get widened, and then ball goes inside and stuff like that. So if the Cowboys are going to struggle and it turns into a sloppy, kind of a wet game, I do think the Giants have the ability to run the ball better. I just do. And we'll see if the Cowboys can answer. It's probably going to have to be with Pollard. I know I looked this up. Last year, there were 2 games where Saquon Barkley had over 30 carries. The Giants won both of those games. So, that's the Giants, I think, are better equipped at least to hand the ball to a guy 30 times if they have to in a game and maybe get a victory out of it. So
yeah, and I mean,
we'll
the
see.
Giants last year, you look at just running the ball right up the gut on runs that were up the middle. New York averaged 4.8 yards per carry last year. That was the fourth best in the NFL. So obviously they've got a new center this year. They've got the guard questions, but that's a team that has shown they can, just put their head down and barrel
They'll
up the
commit
middle
to
and
it.
have some
Yeah,
success.
they'll commit to it for sure.
Yeah, and so now when we look at the ability to pass the ball for the Cowboys, I'm trying to think back over the years of some of the rain games that the Cowboys have had to play in. So you had
With Dak?
Yeah, with Dak. You've had the Kansas City game in 19, that game, or not 19, 21. That was the game where, they struggled a little bit. There was
No Amari Cooper in that game, right?
Yeah, and it was rain and cold temperatures in New England in 19. That was a really bad game, but that one a little
Both
bit different.
teams struggled with that. It was Tom Brady game.
Did they have the I believe they had did they have a little bit of rain in the Tampa opener a couple years ago when Dak played really well?
I think it rained. I think it rained pregame but I don't think it rained during the game. So it was soft conditions. Yeah.
There's not a lot of instances off the top of my head of games where Dak has had to play in the rain. It is a new scheme.
I think there's some Washington. I think there was some Washington times.
Yeah, the one where he threw it right to Cole Holcomb.
Yeah, I think there were some games. I know there were Tony Romo games where they played rain games, but with Dak, Pittsburgh in his first year, Green Bay I think was overcast, kind of cold, wet. The thing about Dak is that I feel like he's equipped to do this now. Because of his hand size and things like that, this will come down to the Cowboys' ability if they have to throw the football. Now, this is where the intermediate passing game comes into play. Comes in where the picks, the rubs, the bunch formations, get the ball out quick, kind of thing. Maybe it's not. Maybe if it turns into a rain game for the Giants, that could be a little bit of disadvantage of using Jalen Hyatt. If it just turns into vertical, throw the ball down the field kind of a bit. But with the Cowboys, maybe with Cooks, with Lamb, it's a little bit more underneath. Gallup, a little bit more underneath. Run after catch. Throw the ball to Pollard. The Giants could throw to Saquon Barkley too. It kind of equals out. But I think the Cowboys are equipped if it turns into their like a game where it does get wet, that their passing game will, I'm not going to say thrive, but at least it will be better conditioned than everything being down the field. They can throw stuff that, like I say, that gets caught underneath and then turns into bigger plays.
All right, so Brian, as we head into this game, what's your what prediction do you have?
Well, I predicted
one out and what score?
Yeah, there's like two different platforms on besides this one where I had to pick a game. I felt like I picked the Cowboys to win this one 26-24, and then this is really kind of before the weather conditions and all that stuff. I should have done a little bit more research on that. But I kind of feel like that the Cowboys are going to win this game. It's not Aubrey having to kick a game-winning field goal. It is more going to be the Cowboys find a way to get a lead, but then they get the ball back and they have to hold it on a 4-minute offense.
Yeah.
I think this is where I feel like that, McCarthy, play caller, this is where it's going to come into factors. There's going to have to be just predictions, but there's going to be some third down conversions on the way. There's going to be some 3rd and 2s and that they're going to have to convert. We'll see if McCarthy can. In fact, I think he will. I think they'll find a way to run 4-minute offense into this game and then close it out and beat the Giants that way with a couple of Landry victory formations at the end to get it done. 26-24 Cowboys.
All right, I got 20-13 Cowboys. And no, that's not 2 field goals, Brian. That's 3 touchdowns and a missed extra point from Brandon Aubrey.
I knew you were going there.
In case you were wondering, I
was trying to count it, yeah.
There's going to be, it'll probably be the first one. It'll probably be the first extra point. He'll miss it. In fact, Giants probably go up like 7-0, and then when the Cowboys score, you're like, oh, thank God, we're about to tie it.
7-6. Yeah,
They'll miss it, and then everybody's going to panic, but it'll be fine because they'll win in the end. Here's what I will say: do not underestimate the New York Giants.
No,
I don't think they're a great football team, but I think what they're building there is really good.
Yep.
I think they are headed in the right direction. I think Joe Shane is really good in their front office. I like Dable. Mike Kafka is a guy with a big reputation. I would not discount the future of the Giants. And then even for right now, I wouldn't discount the possibility of the Giants winning this game. I think there's a scenario where they win this.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, Dallas could come out here, look great, take advantage of these rookie corners that they have out there, but win this by 2-3 touchdowns. Anything can happen. But I think the likeliest scenario is Dallas wins a game by a touchdown or less, and it's a game where it's in doubt for a lot of it. I mean, even last year, and I know Dak didn't play at MetLife last year, but last year that game was kind of in doubt till, later in the second half when CD went on that incredible drive. Yeah. But I think that this is something where you need to take the Giants seriously. This isn't the Giants of the last, 4 years or whatever.
No,
that have been such a mess.
Yeah, Saquon Barkley's 0-8 against the Cowboys. The Giants have struggled against Dak Prescott, and Dak Prescott's played very well against the Giants. And one of the best throws I think I've ever seen a quarterback make, he threw in a game against the Giants to Cole Beasley. I still to this day don't know how he got his shoulders squared to throw that ball as hard as he did to lead Cole Beasley in the end zone the way he did. So Dak is very, very capable. We've seen a very good Dak on opening day, in Tampa. We've seen a very bad Dak opening day against Tampa at AT&T Stadium. So I'll be interested. The play calling to me, how they manufacture offense early. How does McCarthy get this offense into a rhythm? How does he avoid negative plays? Are you going to see drops like we did in the Kansas City-Detroit game? Are you going to see nerves kind of take over? There's a lot of things that you're scared of opening day. I'll tell you the biggest thing I'm always scared of, Bobby, and luckily the Cowboys, they have like the Dolphins on their schedule. Mm-hmm. I'm grateful that they don't have to open the season in Miami. And I know that we live in a hot environment here in Texas, and it's been really, really hot. But, the Cowboys, it's a big difference when you have to play those games outdoors in heat just right off the jump. Yeah. There's cramping, there's IVs. Jim Maurer, Britt Brown, Greg Gaither, this training staff is going to play a huge role in this football game. And it is played at night. It is played in New York. There's going to be some humidity, but these players cramp. And, how do you manage the game where you're not having CeeDee Lamb sit out part of the third quarter because he's getting an IV, or Tony Pollard sitting out part of the fourth quarter because he's having to get an IV? The conditioning and then how they play. But the first game of the season, is always scary from that standpoint, because you're going to have players that their bodies just aren't conditioned right now to playing a full game, and they're going to have to.
You are listening to the Love of the Star podcast. The Love of the Star is an Odyssey podcast. You can find it on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Brian, with the Cowboys season kicking off, we were asked about our projections for the season in the last mailbag, how we think they're going to finish in terms of record. We're going to get a little bit more particular today. We're going to take a look at some over-unders that I've created for you, Brian, and I'll weigh in on these too. And if you guys want to, let us know in the YouTube comments some of your thoughts in terms of how these over-unders would break out for you, we'd love to hear from you. So first one here, it's obviously the biggest one. It's the one people have been talking about all offseason. Over-under on Dak interceptions, 10.5, Brian.
I'm going to go under on this one. I'm going to go under. I think that what will happen, and I've always said this about Dak, not always. People say I say a lot of bad things about Dak, but I really don't. I try and be fair. Because I just told you one of the greatest throws I've ever seen a quarterback make was that one in the Giants game, and Dak Prescott threw the ball. Yeah. 10.5 on the. I'm going to go under. I do feel like, though, that the interceptions I'm always going to worry about with Dak, whereas if he doesn't see the guy, that's it. If you see interceptions happening where he doesn't see the defender, he doesn't see the safety, he doesn't see the linebacker, Those are the interceptions I'm going to worry about. But the ones I think this team is better equipped on the outside to catch the ball and not, but they need CeeDee Lamb not to break routes off. They talk about being on the same page. That's something, communication. CeeDee Lamb keeps, every time you hear him interviewed, he talks about better communication. So if that's the case, then you're probably going to have a few less of those interceptions that Dak had where Lamb was, for some reason didn't run the route he was told to run. So I'm going to go under on the 10.5.
Yeah, I think this is right around the number for him. Probably is going to.
It's a good number. It makes you think.
So yeah. I think it'll be right around 10 or 11. I think there is. Look, barring what I felt like last year were some unsustainably bad drops at times. Like, I mean, it was really bad luck on like 4 of those where it's like, even when there are drops, they don't normally just go right into somebody's hands that often.
Right.
And so I do feel like that was a little unsustainable. So barring some sort of statistical outlier like that, I'm going to say under. I think that probably around 9 or 10. I think there definitely is there is such a concerted effort to attack the interception number and the turnover number. I think it's more likely than not that goes down.
I'm gonna say the number I have in my mind is 9 is what I have right now. I wish he would go on a run like Jared Goff where it's like 327 straight passes without an interception. That
or
would
like
be
the beginning of his career. What was it? He went the first like 5 games without.
Oh, it was crazy.
One.
Yeah, it's crazy. But capable. We'll see.
Micah Parsons.
It's like Mickey Spagnola there for a minute. We'll see.
We'll find out. Micah Parsons sacks on the year. I'm setting the number high, Brian, but I believe in the guy we saw out there in training camp. 15.
I'm gonna go over on that because I do think I think the number is going to be 16. I do feel like that Micah has prepared himself with new added, I call it body armor. I think he has a better understanding. We had Andrew Whitworth on, the all-pro tackle that's now works on Thursday Night Football for Prime. And so he was talking about that, the things that Micah Parsons was trying to learn about breaking down offensive linemen. And you and I have noticed this about Micah with his hands and stuff. He's trying to do a lot more with his hands. So added body armor, added knowledge. But you need, and this is going to drive people nuts when I say this, I think. But I think Micah is only as good as Dan Quinn will allow him to be. And I think this is on Dan Quinn to try and find spots for him. When they take away opportunities for Micah to rush, they need to figure out other opportunities. So, you can't get to a point where Micah's got like 13.5 sacks or whatever, and then all of a sudden go 7 games without a sack. The pressures are fine, I get it, but you've got to find a way to keep the sack game going because Micah physically knows what he has to do. The knowledge is better. Now Dan Quinn has got to figure out even more of a plan for him to be able to rush the passer, and I think they will.
I'm going to go over. Just assuming health, I'm going over because I think if he's healthy and he's playing all 17 games, the guy I saw at training camp's getting 20 sacks or he's getting near it. I mean, that guy, he has advanced so much this offseason. And when
he's figured out a lot of things. Yeah.
He sounds like the game is starting to make more sense to him. And not that it hasn't before, but when you hear him talk, it sounds like a guy who is like, oh yeah, I've cracked a code here. And I understand how to approach things. Definitely a lot more in his toolbox this year.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, he's got over 200 million reasons to figure this out. He really does. If you think of it, I mean, he is playing right now, and they realize this. Micah Parsons is one of the top 3 defensive players in the league. He's playing for a $35 million a year contract is what he's playing for. Yeah,
and so, I mean, he's going to go out there and he's going to ball
out. He sees it. He knows the number now. He knows the number. Yeah.
All right, Trayvon Diggs interceptions. I got it at 4.5, Brian.
I'm going to say that is going to be Trayvon Diggs 4.5. I think that's a pretty fair number. I think he's probably going to get 5. I'm going to go over on that.
I'm going over because I think that you're going to see a lot more targeting towards Diggs instead of Gilmore.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Last year, he didn't have the same interception numbers, and a lot of times it was just he wasn't getting targeted as much as he was the year before because The other side of the corner equation just wasn't playing as well.
Right.
Guys were able to take advantage of earlier in the year Anthony Brown and then Kelvin Joseph and, at different times Jordan Lewis before he got hurt. And so this is something where I think Gilmore looked really good in training camp. I think he still looks like a really good corner, and he's a smart, savvy player. So I think the teams are going to probably move the ball more towards Diggs' direction this year than Gilmore, and he'll get some opportunities. So I'm going to say over.
Yeah, it's funny, Bobby, about these numbers you've done. Everyone, it's almost like you've got a little BetMGM in you with the Vegas the way you set these things, because I feel like it could go a half either way. It could go an interception either way, either way. The numbers. It's not like a massive he could beat this by half a sack. Kind of feel like. So I think your numbers are pretty good. Got some Vegas in you.
I'm trying to. All right, next one here. We'll see if this one's got Vegas or if it's way off. Tyron Smith games, Brian. 10.5.
Okay, this is where I kind of agree, and I know on our show on 105.3 The Fan, our station, that Mike Bassick likes to bring this up, and it drives Kevin Hagelin nuts when he says, "Okay, what week will we not have Tyron Smith play?" And I'm going to say, man, he already rolled our ankle before the season's even started.
Yeah.
Tyron, and the sad thing for Tyron is when he does get hurt, a lot of it's not his fault. I mean, he's had a history where there are guards that have played next to him, and this is where I kind of worry a little bit about Adoga maybe getting thrown on the ground and thrown into the back into his legs. And we've seen Tyron Smith, knee sprains and hyperextensions and all this stuff because other people have fallen down into the back of his legs. That's the thing I always worry. I'm going to say
for reference, here's the last 4 years, 2019 on. 13 games, 2 games, 11 games, 4 games.
Yeah.
So
not a very promising. Yeah, see what you did there. I'm going to get 10.5. I'm going to say it's an over.
I'm going to say over. I'm going to say I think he plays 12. Something like that. He will get hurt. He will miss games.
The number that came into my head was 12.
Yeah, he'll miss games.
Yeah.
He's going to. It happens every year. He has not played every game in a season.
Please prove us wrong, Tyron. Please.
Since the year before Dak got drafted.
Just, Tyron, go out there and just ball out. I mean, clearly he's not as good as he was 4 or 5 years ago.
Sure. No,
but just,
times undefeated.
Man, just go play 16, 17 games for us, please. Just line up and play. And then tip your cap until, give everybody the double birds that you played the whole season, and then move on with your life.
Pro Bowlers. 4.5.
Over.
Who do you got?
Oh, you're gonna ask me to name them all?
Just give me 5.
Martin.
Give me 5. Martin.
Yeah, Martin's gonna be a Pro Bowler. I think that Parsons is gonna be a Pro Bowler. I think that what's interesting? I'm gonna throw Tony Pollard in there as a Pro Bowler.
Okay. It's 3.
How about one of the corners? Which corner?
Gilmore or Diggs?
I'm gonna go with Gilmore.
Okay, that's
I'm
4.
going to go with Gilmore. And the 5th Pro Bowl I'm going to throw out there, Van Der Esch get a nod here?
Over Lamb?
Lamb would be my 6th guy. Wide receivers too deep, man. There's a lot.
What's your number then? You're saying 5?
I'm going. You're saying over. I'm saying over 4.
So you're saying Van Der Esch. You're going to get. But what?
Lamb or Van Der Esch, or one of those two guys.
So you think they get 5 or 6 roughly?
I think they do. Yeah, I think they get 5.
I'm gonna say it's 4. I'm gonna say under.
You're a jerk.
I'm just not because of any other reason than, like you say, receivers stacked. They don't have a tight end that's really great. I don't know how much Pollard is actually going to be used like they think. Martin, Parsons.
I think Pollard's gonna have a big year.
We'll see.
I think Pollard's gonna have a big year.
Last one here, and this will be the one where you got to really.
That's my surprise one. That was one of my. I'm keeping as. Remember this day when he does make the Pro Bowl. Okay, running back, man. Running back.
Remember, you'll be apologizing for it all year like Anthony Brown if he doesn't.
Yeah, no, Anthony Brown. But I was right about Dorrance Armstrong.
Yes,
I was right about Dorrance. So I 50%. I hit it 50%.
You were. There we go. That's a good hit rate. This is the one where you got to put it on the line, Brian. Playoff victories, 1.5.
Man, because they have them going to Detroit in the wild card. I think Detroit at home is going to be pretty tough. They play Detroit late in the year too, right? Isn't there a game that they come to AT&T Stadium late? That'll probably tell us a lot. I'm putting a lot of money on Detroit just because I think they're built the right way. And Aaron Rodgers is no longer playing in the North. I'm going to go playoff victory, 1.5. No, I made a prediction. I said they're going to lose to the Lions in the wild card round. So
Under.
All
right. I'm going under too. I think they win a game. I think they probably lose. I don't think that Mike McCarthy's the guy to get them out of this slump. Honestly, I think the roster's really good. I just don't trust him in playoff football going up against some of these other coaches.
Yeah.
That's my biggest thing.
Jeez.
You were listening.
I don't have them win. You don't have them win the division then. Do you have them win in the division?
No, I have Philly winning it. I have Dallas winning with 11 games.
Can I say one thing before we get out of here? This Love of the Star thing we're about to do, the questions.
Yeah.
I want to say that to me, I think this division is going to be very tight. I don't think there's a 14-win team in Philadelphia here. I think the division winner could very well have won 11 games.
Yeah.
That's how I kind of feel like this thing might
It'll
play
absolutely be close.
Yeah.
You were listening to the Love of the Star podcast. The Love of the Star is an Odyssey podcast. You can find it on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Brian, it is now time for our Dean Julia Love of the Star mailbag, as you just referenced. First question here from Thomas Wasson. He says, what is the breakdown of touches in the running back room? Do you see Pollard and a specific running back two splitting the lion's share of the touches, or perhaps a three-headed monster like Barber, Jones, and Choice back in the day?
Well, I have Pollard making the Pro Bowl, so I think he's going to get the majority of the work. You have to figure out where maybe those short yardage or the goal line touches are going to be, you know? Dowdle, yeah. I want everybody's. I was asked in a program last night about who my dark horse guy would be, and I'm kind of thinking that Dowdle will be a dark horse guy because there's a lot of things he could do. He's going to help you on special teams. Yeah, he needs to stay healthy. Special teams, the third down back potentially is a pass blocker, short yardage guy potentially. I think there's a lot of things that he's going to. I think there's a lot of things he's going to have to do that Deuce Vaughn doesn't do, and that's going to make him a very valuable player. But he has to stay healthy. You're absolutely right. But I think the lion's share of the work is going to go with Pollard.
Yeah, I don't think this is a Zeke Pollard split between Pollard and whoever else.
No.
I think the backups are getting a smaller amount of the workload, and then
70-20-10 kind of a thing.
Maybe 70-15-15.
Okay.
I could see. I mean, Dowdle, I think, will be in there a lot for pass protection stuff. If we're talking about carries, yeah, it may be 20-10.
Yeah.
But I think with what Vaughn will be in there to do to catch passes and stuff, touches might even out a little bit more than that.
Yep.
Next question here from Sean. He says, Dak and the offense has started the last several seasons strong, last year aside. Why do you guys think he has tended to drop off later in the season? Is it teams catching up to our schemes or just an inability to finish more important games?
Do you have an answer on this one?
I think that there have been times, specifically a couple years before, where Kellen Moore didn't always make adjustments as the season went on.
Sure.
I think he was a good offensive coordinator. I would not have let him go. He wanted to go, I think was the biggest reason he's gone. But I think adjustments is part of it. And, you know, other than that, I think it's that's just a big aspect of it. Now, obviously with Dak, you know, in 21, the issue was he just didn't look the same after the calf strain.
Right.
And so that was the midway point of the season, second half of the year. He just didn't look like the same guy.
From that New England game on, it was a totally different quarterback. He wasn't healthy enough. Yeah. Health might have a lot to do with him. You know, health might have how banged up that he will get during a season. And, you know, at times he'll have, you know, guys will let him down. I mentioned about CeeDee Lamb. There were some of those routes where CeeDee was running inside routes. And, you know, the Green Bay game, great example. Him and Schultz, two guys. Somebody's got to get inside. You know, Dak is throwing the ball to a spot, expecting one of those guys to be inside, trying to anticipate a route. And boom, nobody's there, intercepted. So I feel like there's health, there's teammate, but there's also maybe a little pressing. Maybe the magnitude of the game turns into a little pressing.
Yeah, I mean, Dallas has historically over the last 20 years had some trouble in December.
Yep.
And that's I think that's just a function of the true contenders generally, level up there. And
remember, it was Romo.
Will.
Yeah, Romo had that problem, and it was at 14. It was the game, the season that ended with
4-0 or whatever.
Yeah, but that was when DeMarco Murray was running the ball, and then DeMarco Murray broke his hand. Yep. And then it turned into Romo had to start throwing the football, and he did. He lived up to everything we've ever thought about Tony Romo. Yeah. So that's the magnitude of December is tough on a lot of players, not just Dak Prescott.
Next question here from Andy Delgado. Week 3 last year versus the Giants, the boys used a combo of Farniak and Peters at left guard because of McGovern injury. If Tyler can't go, do you think Edoga, Richards, Bass will be better or worse than Farniak, Peters? I don't believe they will go with any sort of a combo with that. I think part of the reason they went with a combo is because they just didn't know how ready Jason Peters was.
Right.
If Jason Peters would have been more ready to go, you got to remember they were playing him inside at guard. He had just signed late. Right. I think there were reasons for that. This to me is, barring a Chaz Green-like performance at left guard, this is Edoga's job for when Tyler Smith is out. I think they want the veteran in there.
Yeah, I think that now you're right. If it turns into a Chaz Green situation, I think you could see Bass or Hoffman. We mentioned that with Hoffman. I mean, he's going to be the backup center, depending on the numbers of how they get down to their game day actives. So I think that, to me, I'd love to see TJ Bass play. I'd love to see if TJ Bass, I'd like to see him starting in this game. I just think that the power he plays with, we've seen rookies go in there and do well. I know it took Lyle Collins being very poor on and off the field to give Steele a chance. But once you gave Steele a chance, you kind of felt like that you were going in the right direction. There was a reason why you didn't need Lyle Collins anymore. Yeah. So, this goes all the way back, Bobby, and maybe when we get to, the springtime again and the draft shows and stuff, the discussions that we had about should they have drafted a guard? Because should they have drafted a guard? I was to the point where I was kind of moving on from Tyron Smith, and I was going to leave Tyler Smith at left tackle and think about drafting a guard.
I'm with you. They were discussing Matthew Bergeron.
Absolutely
out of Syracuse.
And to Will McClay's credit, he stood up in a draft room and made now it's in black and white for everybody to see that he stood up for Mozzie Smith, and you hope that Mozzie Smith. You got to give these scouts the benefit of the doubt. They've done a pretty damn nice job.
Yeah, absolutely. Last one here from Caleb Reese. It's a little bit more fun, open-ended question, Brian, but I know that you've got all those pennants behind you and everything else.
Yeah.
If the AFC and NFC championship games were decided by who had the best uniforms, what teams would end up in the Super Bowl?
I answered this question. I answered it. I didn't know it was a question for our show. I think what I do, I did the
take a look.
I did the Bears. I did the Bears.
Powder blues would be a strong contender.
Yeah.
Kansas City white and red pants.
Yeah.
Bears. And
navy blue
with the New Orleans black jerseys, gold pants. I'll tell you what. To me, it's easy. It's I think there's a reason God has matched these 3 teams up in the Super Bowl, or these 2 teams up in the Super Bowl 3 times before. It's the Pittsburgh Dallas look.
Okay.
Though the white uniform, the helmet, and then you get the black and gold Steelers. It's just such
the pants drive me nuts for Cowboys. I love the jersey.
You hate the sea foam.
I don't really dig the pant. I don't. But I think I've seen so much now of what Kansas City throws out there, and I've been watching so many highlights and Mahomes and the white with the red numbers and the red pants. I love that look, and I think people are sleeping on the Saints. I think people are sleeping on the old school black jerseys with the gold pants with the Saints.
I mean, I don't know. It might be a nice clean look if you were able to see Raiders 49ers. You got a Bay Area.
Oh man, I'll tell you what. Hey, one year, I think it was 1995 when the league was celebrating its 75th anniversary. Everybody was wearing throwbacks, and the 49ers wore the throwbacks. They started winning games, like their numbers were red jerseys with white numbers, but it was a shadow. There was a black shadow on the number. And the 49ers just started winning games, and they wore them the whole time. They wore their throwbacks the whole time, and they won the Super Bowl. I think Steve Young. I think that's the Super Bowl that Steve Young won.
Yeah, that was the Dion year because Dion was running back interceptions that year with the little shadow on his number.
Yeah, but it was really a cool look, and the 49ers do have a very good look though, with the gold pants, red with the red jerseys. I think that's a really cool look too.
It's a sharp uniform.
The seafoam pants. I'm sorry. I've seen those uniforms from day one. You know, I've been there day one, and I just don't. Tex Schramm, I'm sorry. I know you did it for TV, but man, you lost me there. You lost me.
We will be back with you guys early next week after the Cowboys and the Giants game at MetLife Stadium. Yeah, Brian, what's up?
Have a good trip, Robert.
Thank you. Yes,
Bobby's going to be on the plane, 105.3 The Fan. He's going to be a part of our coverage there that we have, as he talked about earlier. But there's your Cowboys insider right there, folks. So Bobby will be on that trip, traveling with those the guys and gals up to the Meadowlands, and hopefully bringing back a victory. Robert,
let's
don't come home unless you got one.
Let's come home with 2 victories. Let's get a Cowboys victory, and then tonight hook them. Let's take down the Tide, and let's make it a clean sweep for the teams over the weekend. For Brian Broaddus, I'm Bobby Belt. We will talk to you guys next time. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest updates. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.